Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Peter Christensen from the Bitcoin 15. I am not joined by Peter Beckstrand. As you can see, we've got a guest co-host here, good friend of the program, Gabe, and he is a friend of both Peter and I's, former landlord of both of ours, probably our number one 15er out there, as we affectionately call the 15 or so people that actually watch the show. And Gabe's a real smart guy and a good friend for showing up on short notice to help me host this show. So Gabe, what's up?
Hey, good to be here. Listen, big shoes to fill. I can never hope to equal what Beckstrand brings to the table on a podcast, but especially on the basketball court. Maybe I can just do different things than what he normally does, akin to our league basketball games as well. Good to be here. Big fan of the show.
Look at that, folks. He's humble too. And the three of us have won a few basketball men's league titles together. So B division, but whatever. All right. So let's get right into the stories here. I think a good place to start is, since we talk price a lot of times early on in these episodes, is we had kind of a flash crash there overnight, Saturday night to Sunday morning in the US, because what was going on over in China, which we know is where a lot of the mining is happening. They had a big power blackout, I guess, shut down a lot of mining operations, and that caused the price to crash, maybe caused some panic buys, maybe even some whales in the space we were seeing, and it really affected the hash rate, which Gabe and I were just talking pre-show. We admittedly don't totally know how to explain what the hash rate is, but it's involved with how much mining is going on, and it tends to correlate with prices. But sure enough, Bitcoin's already bounced back a good, I think 50% of what it lost on that flash crash. I'm sure we're well on our way back to 60K soon enough here. Gabe, what was your reaction? Did you see this? Did you notice the big crash happen in the morning when you woke up Sunday morning? I check my prices almost hourly. So
yeah, it's unfortunate when you wake up to a couple texts from buddies that say, "Hey, don't check your price of Bitcoin." You go, "Oh man!" It's one of the rare nights I had my phone off during the middle of the night, because otherwise, like you, I'm the guy who's checking the prices when I go up for my 3 a.m. Bathroom piss. Unfortunately, as you get older, that's one of those things that happens. But yeah, you wake up, you see a couple of those texts, you go, "Oh man, that's not the way I want to start my day with a big $10,000 price drop." But like you said, it's coming back, and if you're a long-term holder like we are, it's really just part of the game. And honestly, I've read enough articles now that say, hey, it's good to have these corrections, these price drops every now and then, because not only does it allow more people to join the party, but also you don't want an asset that just continually goes up in perpetuity at breakneck pace. It's good to see gradual and smaller gains. So tougher day. Yeah, we're coming back.
I think that's a great point. It lets people have hope that there's those chances to get in. We've seen it when it goes up so fast at breakneck paces. Sometimes that's when it'll crash much larger, not just a $10,000 correction, because at this point that's only what, 15-20%. I can't do the math in my head that fast, but that's not all bad, especially when it rebounds so quickly as well. So that's a really good point. And it's I'm blanking on what my second point was off that, which is unfortunate. But that's I was going to say though, I've yet to check prices when I get up for my mid sleep bathroom break, but I think you'll be on another level of Bitcoin degeneracy if you start buying dips in the middle of the night when you see that.
Yeah, I haven't quite going there yet, and I also don't recommend checking the price of Bitcoin at 3 a.m.
It could cause you to never go back to sleep that night, exactly. I suppose. Although I was going to argue for not checking it, just because sometimes it's the opposite. Because of activity in China or the East Asian markets, we wake up to a $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 price bump, and you're like, whoa! I think that happened back in March at one point. That was pretty awesome.
Right, so. And the overarching point of all this is it really doesn't matter, if it does go up $4 or $5,000 in a night, or drops $4 or $5,000 in a night, because the end result is we're not going to make any changes. We're not going to suddenly sell our entire stake or instantly buy more, like you said. It really doesn't matter in the short term.
Good point. So off of that, let's just talk about some kind of cool things that we're seeing more adoption in society that happened this week. First off, we usually highlight sports stories. We're not big soccer guys. I've become more of a soccer guy, but in recent years, but we're more, we're American, so we're more about real football. But it's Southampton FC. They call themselves a football club. It's actually English soccer. Just announced this week they're going to be paying player bonuses in Bitcoin. The players have the option. Obviously, it's not forced. That's pretty cool. MicroStrategy, our old friend Michael Saylor, we've talked about him a lot on this channel. He's obviously buying tons of Bitcoin, keeping on his balance sheet. Well, apparently now he's going to start paying his board members in Bitcoin because of that. And kind of a negative for MicroStrategy as well. Unfortunately, HSBC is not allowing its customers to buy Bitcoin or a MicroStrategy stock because of how much Bitcoin they hold, which is kind of weird. So that's anti-adoption, but I'm sure they'll change course here soon enough. And then Time Magazine, which this was the most surprising of them all to me, since we've seen it in the world of sports. We've already seen the MicroStrategy purchases. Time Magazine, saw it on Twitter today, and you sent it to me as well. They're now going to allow subscribers to pay for subscriptions in Bitcoin, and they also and other cryptocurrencies, and they plan on keeping them on their balance sheet. They don't plan on just converting to dollars. So that's one I did not see coming. How about you? I mean, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, well, let's start there for sure. That to me, you think about the print media, newspapers and magazines, you think that they're kind of outdated and, on the precipice of getting shoved to the corners of society. No one really subscribes to magazines and newspapers anymore. So then they're the ones that are accepting this, new form of payment. Kind of bizarre, like you said, but even more intriguing is the fact that they're not redeeming it for cash. They're just, basically going to hold on to crypto. So that tells me, two things. One, that they probably see the long-term value in it, but also two, that they're not hurting their balance sheet isn't hurting as badly as they maybe like you to believe, especially a big company like Time Warner.
Yeah, good point. I mean, if they had to pay their bills, they can't pay their bills in Bitcoin yet. So they'd have to cash in so they could pay their expenses. So that's a good point about their balance sheets. And also I have this though too. Could it be like a Hail Mary by legacy media though, to say, hey, we're failing, but if we can cash in on the crypto craze, this could save us for a while. Who knows?
Yeah,
I don't know. But
I really like that counterpoint. It's a possibility. Yeah.
So, but yeah, any thoughts on the other two stories there? Or
well, certainly with the I know next to nothing about the EPL and overseas soccer, but I did find it fascinating that they're willing to pay bonuses to their players in crypto, Bitcoin specifically. There's a whole slew of directions you could take that, but it could get pretty expensive overseas for some of those guys who are really prolific scorers. This one guy in particular, it could reach about $250,000, 5% of his usual salary in Bitcoin if he hits certain levels for his performance. So that's not an insignificant amount of change. But then also you think about, well, are certain players going to be drawn to that club because they're paying in crypto?
Yeah.
Does it create a run on the market for certain teams to attract all the stars if they're paying bonuses in Bitcoin?
So great question. I also don't know a ton about the EPL, but I've gotten into the last two years a little bit because there's an American, the America's biggest star, Christian Pulisic, plays for Chelsea, which is obviously one of the biggest clubs in the EPL now. And so I'm aware of Southampton as a English Premier League club because they're kind of one of the not big clubs. They're not in the quote big six. Yeah. And so they do have a harder time usually attracting big stars. But I would imagine if this matters to the big star players, the other clubs will follow very quickly after. But if there's enough time, let's say it just takes a couple seasons, Southampton could have an advantage for just a short little while there if a star player is like, well, I want to get paid in Bitcoin and really take advantage of this when another club won't. And then, then you got to ask the question too. English soccer and all European soccer has this system where you can loan players. So if you're only loaned to Southampton, but you're your parent club that loaned you to them is probably the one paying you. You probably don't get the Bitcoin bonuses. I don't know. That's more of a soccer question than a Bitcoin question, but
Could be, yeah. And the Bitcoin is not entirely new to the English Premier League. I believe there was a team maybe last season that had the Bitcoin patch on their jersey as
I
part
believe
of the
that's Southampton actually.
Oh, it was okay. I was not
Or
familiar.
there might be another one too, but I believe Southampton's one of them actually.
It's pretty exciting to see Bitcoin come into the mainstream sports and get a
Yeah.
little more visibility in that sense.
Yeah. So more adoption. That's the kind of stuff we like to see. One other like smaller story I saw that was a little adoption. It's, we talk about Southampton, that's in the UK. One of the countries we haven't really highlighted before on the show. We've talked about a lot of more developing countries or second world countries or third world countries that are adopting. And of course, we all are pretty American centric, being that we're Americans, but the UK kind of having its day today with the soccer story. And then also I saw that this week that the most expensive apartment in the UK is currently for sale, and the sellers are willing to accept, either I'm sure British pounds or Bitcoin, which pretty crazy to see the super duper rich. All, I'm sure it's a very, very wealthy person is the one selling this apartment. Usually they're not the first ones to adopt this too, to take that big of a risk with that much money. It'd be one thing for, someone who owns a $10,000 shanty to sell it for Bitcoin, but
Right. Yeah.
we're
I mean,
talking,
if you have $240 million laying around, you can own London's nicest apartment. And it was nice. I did take a look at it. A really nice
nice.
apartment. But I mean, 240 million or 3,800 Bitcoin. So based on current prices, 3,800 Bitcoin sounds a lot more reasonable. But I think that just speaks to the long-term potential, what people see, especially the people that are marketing this place.
Well, and with all these stories, I always ask the question though, it's good on people for offering the opportunity to buy or the opportunity to sell for that with Bitcoin. But if you're a hardcore Bitcoiner, there's no way you're buying anything with your Bitcoin right now, because that's the equivalence of cashing out. And when in the midst of this bull run, not a soul who's a hardcore Bitcoiner on planet Earth thinks it's a good time to sell. It's pretty much just all new money that just wants a quick payday.
Yeah, certainly. And you're probably not going to cash out for any part of real estate, even London's nicest apartment. But on
Yeah,
the other side, if you have 3,800 Bitcoin that you can probably afford to get rid of, you probably have a whole lot more than that. And you've probably been holding on to this since, the late
that's true.
2000s.
That's true. And then if it's time to finally diversify your holdings, because you're probably like 98% net worth in Bitcoin, maybe London real estate holds value pretty well too. So
Yeah.
maybe not the worst move. Anyhow, I think let's that roll into kind of our story of the week. Of this was pretty darn big news. Coinbase, the giant exchange, sells Bitcoin, of course, many other cryptocurrencies, but Bitcoin's really, of course, what puts it all on the map. Coinbase has gone public. They had their IPO this week. And I understand you are an investor. So why don't you kind of take the lead on this story then, Gabe, if you don't mind?
Yeah, Coinbase is one of those that I had my eye on for quite a while. Company's been around since I think 2010, maybe 2011, back when Bitcoin was just $6. Pretty low price. It took some pretty extraordinary vision for those guys to create the company and to build it to what it is today. But yeah, when it went public, I was looking forward to buying some shares, so we did for the family and for the individual brokerage account. Obviously, with any new stock purchase, it's a little nerve-wracking at the beginning, especially when you see big spikes and big swings. But it's not something I plan to get rid of anytime soon. Probably hold for the long term, just like the Bitcoin. $100 billion valuation right out of the gates, so that speaks to the market's appetite still for these kind of financial tech IPOs. And I believe they went with a direct listing rather than the traditional IPO. So out of the gates, I think the price shot up to about $330, which is where it stands as a market close today, maybe 333, somewhere in that neighborhood. A lot of potential. I've seen some price targets out there for 600, a couple more for 450. So there's quite a bit of following for it already. And I think for people that are maybe just new to the crypto game, not a bad way to to make a play on it, as opposed to just owning Bitcoin. A lot of people can understand ownership in a company versus ownership in just something that they can't see or touch, such as a Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's nice to see them. This is now the biggest alternative out there to owning Bitcoin, I think, other than, Grayscale Bitcoin Trust Company. That's something I own shares in. Have you dabbled in them at all?
No,
I guess we don't have to get too personal in our portfolios, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think the symbol is, what is it? GBTC.
GBTC. Yep.
Right. Just a traditional ETF play on the Bitcoin. No, I'm not an owner of Grayscale Bitcoin Trust.
I don't believe they're technically an ETF. I think they're just a trust company, because they've been around before, but there are ETFs now also, which it's taken a while. But so there's been a couple alternatives, but Coinbase, a company that, if they say, if you own big critics of Bitcoin, there's similar to critics of gold, it doesn't produce anything. Well, if you own a company that's making its money from buying and selling Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, it is going to produce something, and it is going to produce actual dollars. If you want more of those, if you want cash flow, and you can do a valuation on them based on their cash flows. Maybe that's what you want, and maybe one day Coinbase will be paying a dividend to you. I don't know. But it's like you said, it's a good way to dip your toes in the water without actually, you're like, I don't know how to buy Bitcoin. I don't know how to have a digital wallet or cold storage, all these options. I don't know if I want to trust it out on the internet. Could it be hacked if I leave it on the exchange? A lot of people have no idea, and they're kind of scared, but they know they want to get on the craze. So yes, Coinbase going public is now an option. There are some other mining companies out there that are public. I've dabbled in one. It's called Hive Blockchain Technologies. It was like a penny stock that I've dabbled in, very small position in it, but it's just those are some alternatives as well. And so it's this is just more good news for big adoption. And I'd say they're hardcore Bitcoiners. There's a lot of them that actually are very anti-Coinbase, unfortunately, because they think they're kind of hucksters shilling the altcoins, or the quote, bleep this out, but shit coins. We're not monetized anyhow, so it doesn't really matter. Sorry, kids, earmuff that one. So there's a lot of people don't like Coinbase for that reason, but let's face it, Coinbase has also had a positive effect on it. I mean, I bought my first ever position in Bitcoin through Coinbase. So
absolutely, I think the company does a really good job of taking the stigma out of owning cryptocurrency, and they make it accessible for everybody. And not only that, but if you're managing a major mutual fund or any kind of hedge fund, I think you owe it to your clients to at least participate somewhat in ownership of cryptocurrency. I think you're doing them a disservice if you don't. So logic would have it say, hey, here's this new company that's available on the market. We're going to take a stake in them because we believe long-term in the value of cryptocurrency, specifically Bitcoin. So I think it's as more and more money managers start to take aim here, I think Coinbase has a really good long-term potential. I wouldn't have listed if I didn't, believe it did. So I'm really bullish on the company, and I know there's some naysayers out there because that's just the nature of the beast. But you got to look at what Coinbase their potential is and their valuation already, and the fact that they're profitable is extraordinary.
Yeah. Did you see that Kevin Durant got in when it was valued at like $1.5 billion or something like that? Something crazy. Yeah. I mean, man, what a payday he must have had.
Part of the reason he wanted to go out to the Warriors is to be involved in the tech scene, I guess, right? I mean,
wow. Think about that. Not only he got 2 rings out there, and now he's, way more money because he got involved in that scene. That's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was interesting. Coinbase, like I said at the beginning of this discussion, their founders had such incredible vision to be able to start this company, and I imagine in their early days, they had some really dark hours, get people on board trying to attract money for startup costs, and sharing a 2-bedroom apartment, had to be just crazy. And then 8 years in, they had the big Bitcoin crash when it lost over 2/3 of its value. And, I think like half of their employees left the firm at that point. Pretty crazy stuff. And that whole time, the employees were getting paid in Bitcoin. So there was never really any true payoff until the prices rose, but then boom, they crashed right back down. So kudos to them for sticking with it. And, they deserve everything that they get in terms of price escalations because they earned it.
Well, there you go, folks. Well, I guess it's just a matter of time before we probably see like Gemini, Kraken, some of these other ones go, or BlockFi even go public as well. We'll see. Maybe that's not 2021. Maybe that's a couple of years down the road. But I think if I had to make a prediction, I'd say probably Gemini comes next. But we'll see. I've been wrong before. But anyhow, we better wrap. We've gone long, but that means you fit in just like Beckstrand. The two of us go long every episode as well. So Gabe, thank you very much for being with us, man. I think you crushed it. So
all right, my pleasure. Keep listening.
Beckstrand is on notice.
Beckstrand back next episode.
All right. Thanks for being. Oh, remember to like and subscribe, everyone. All right. See ya.